This is No BS Job Search Advice Radio, episode 1107. I tell you, 1107. I'm your host, Jeff Altman, the Big Game Hunter, and welcome. Now, today's show is a little bit different. Well, it's a lot different, to be honest with you. You know, when I started my other show, Job Search Radio, which is the number 2 show in Apple Music about job search, I started as a 30-minute interview show. I haven't been doing those in a long time, but I decided I would do one here and experiment with an occasionally different format. My guest is Amy Lyle, who's a former recruiter and corporate trainer who wrote, and it is legitimately a Amazon bestseller, the Amy Vinegar Kimmis Lyle Book of Failures. Long title. I have a link in the show notes. She's a lot of fun to talk with, and I'll just simply say, listen to the show. She and I have some fun. Take the 10 points out of it that she proposes. We go into some more depth. The interview is just under 30 minutes in length, and I'll just simply say, as I've said many times, hang in there, enjoy the ride, take what you can from the show. It is a nice one. And with that, let's get going. Hi, this is Jeff Altman, the Big Game Hunter, and welcome to another episode of Job Search TV. And I thought I would bring a guest on today. Amy Lyle has worked as a recruiter and corporate trainer for 15 years at one of the largest staffing firms in the world. I think that translates into she's a high-functioning dysfunctional. She lives outside of Atlanta. Yes. Yes. She lives outside of Atlanta and has written a best-selling book titled, what do you hear this one? The Amy Vinegar Kimmis Lyle Book of Failures. If you look up Book of Failures on Amazon, you'll find it. And she shares all sorts of fails, including her own job interview mistakes. What's fun is she's turned that book into a spot on an Atlanta morning show, Atlanta and Company, been featured on NPR, writes for My Forsyth magazine, and has a movie in development, all as a result of this stupidly titled book. So today we're going to talk about what not to do in an interview, or in other words, interview fails. How's that?
Exactly.
Amy, welcome.
Hi, I am from Atlanta, but I'm visiting you from Nashville.
Ooh. Do you have your country music twang going today?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, honey. Oh, yeah, darling.
How are you, darling?
Last night I had a piece of cake. It was called like the Dolly Parton chocolate banana cake. I'm like, I love Nashville.
I'm afraid to ask what the cake looked like.
It was delicious. Oddly, it was quite flat.
Very weird. Very weird. Anyway, you've got the top 10 things that people screw up on interviews. So Are you ready?
I'm ready. Should we start with number 10?
Number 10!
Number 10! Not having a professional 99.9% accurate resume. Tell them why, Jeff.
Because when they go on the interview, they forget their lies. So they wind up getting caught in the lie. How was that?
However, number 9.
Oh, we're at number 9 already.
We're number 9 already. So number 9 is not telling the truth during an interview. However, you don't want to tell too much truth. Like if you left because you were having an affair with the boss and you're in the middle of a lawsuit, no. You don't say that during the interview, right?
I don't know. Are you sure about that one? Because that one could go lots of different ways.
Yeah, you might want to say that, you were just, lack of growth, or you guys were moving in different directions, but not you're having an affair.
Right. And guys, that's true of you too.
Yeah, nobody say too. Sometimes, the truth is too much. Okay, number 8.
Number 8.
Okay, I messed up the numbers. Dressing as if you were going to a club.
Or the beach, depending upon what part of the country you're in.
Or the beach. And You know what? My top today, I'm sorry, I'm in Nashville at a conference, is not appropriate for a job interview. This top is not appropriate for a job interview. You need to not show your shoulders, your cleavage, your legs, your midriff, even unless you're interviewing for a club. You need to dress like an IBM or like you're going to a bank.
And guys, that's true of you too.
Right.
Disco. I'm going to date this a little bit. The disco thing with the shirt down to the middle of the chest with the chains.
Yeah.
I still, when I coach people, it's amazing what people wear in these sessions. And
I know. I think sometimes they want to stand out. And so I tell the gentleman, I'm like, let your experience stand out, but please don't come in a purple suit or even a purple tie, really. Like, come in very conservatively, and then maybe down the road you can bring in some of your personality. But most interviews, unless you're interviewing for a very artsy type company, want a very conservative look in their building. It's just a fact.
I remember years ago when I was still doing recruiting, and it was appropriate and stylish for a woman, particularly one who was blonde, to wear a gold suit. I remember getting the phone call from the managing director at this investment bank talking about the light bulb who had just interviewed at their office.
And it's if you don't know, ask, especially if you're going through a recruiter, we'll help you with that. Like, ask, it's going more conservative is better than not. No tattoos showing. If you have a tattoo, even on your foot, please put a Band-Aid on it. And maybe the company is okay with that, but you don't necessarily know that. No extensive, long, crazy fingernails, no excessive jewelry. Just play it down for the interview to see what happens. And then once you're in the company, then you can feel out and probably bring out more of your personality, but not in the interview. Keep it really tight and conservative.
Agreed. So what number was that? Was that number 8 or number 7?
Okay, well, I messed up, but it's going to be number 7. So number 6.
Number 6.
Number 6. Not asking for what you're worth.
The old leaving money on the table trick.
Hey, so do your research, see what other students are going for in that, your area of expertise, and don't be scared to ask for it.
Conversely, sometimes people shoot for the moon and they're not.
Yes, that was my other point, was you cannot ask for money based on your debt, your housing mortgage, or your children. They don't care if you have 7 children. That's not a concern. Money is based on your experience and what value you bring to the company. So you cannot bring in any of your personal business. Now you can say, oh my goodness, I'm so sorry, I misunderstood. This salary is not even above what I'm making now. I wouldn't make a move for that. But you can't bring in your own bills and expenses.
The only place where I've always told people it can get brought in is if you, I'll use the example of the New York area. If you work in New York City, someone is paying to commute to New York, pay New York City and New York State taxes. And if they're then going to work closer to home and not have that commute, or they're going to have the 2-hour drive to get to work, like one person I was speaking to this morning, you bring those variables in. But like Amy said, you don't bring in the ones about, but I need the money. No one cares.
Yeah, all those are considered. You can ask questions. Does your firm pay for parking? That's a valid question. That doesn't really have anything to do with your financial. You're just asking what the perks are of the company. Do you have paid parking? Is there dry cleaning in the building? I mean, is there all kinds of things? So you can ask that, and then you can take into consideration, is the money enough? Because you did used to have free parking in your old building, and now you're not going to have free parking. So you would have to weigh that. But bringing in your personal business is a no.
Or the cost of benefits. That's another classic example.
Absolutely. You have the right. You should inquire about that.
Yeah, if you're not paying for benefits now and suddenly you're going to spend $1,500 a month for insuring yourself and your family, Got to work that into the equation. So what's
Right.
number 5?
Number 5, speaking negatively about any past companies or past employers or coworkers.
So how do you talk about why you're looking for a job? My boss is an idiot. He never listens to anything that I say. How do you explain that one?
I'm the smartest one there. Yeah, you try to tell the truth in a delicate way if your boss and you really don't get along. And I would keep it to job duties that the job duty company are more interesting, that this position isn't available at your current company. You know, somebody's been there for 20 years. But I would keep it very short and make sure you have a reason of why you do want to make a move other than you don't like your boss.
Yeah, not liking someone is what I call an immature answer. Talking about things that you want to improve over what you have currently, and we're saying, and we're not saying, you know, I want to improve on my boss. You know, my boss currently is an idiot. You don't seem that way. So, and we're doing this in a fun kind of way today, folks. I'll just simply say I know you're getting the message on this one.
And then for everyone, we always have an opposite. You don't want to talk, you want to say positive things about your past employer, but you don't want to go overboard. That you want to have a delicate balance of your relationship. It needs to be very, very professional of your relationship with your boss and your relationship with the people there. And you can keep it very, I enjoy the people, I am looking for this type of growth, you know, or whatever. Your location is like you said earlier, 10 miles closer to my house, you know, whatever. You can just bring up the perks of why the new company would be a better fit for you without throwing anyone under the bus or making a big fuss about the last company. Because
the truth of the matter is, when you throw them under the bus, you're throwing yourself under there with them.
Yeah, and we know that you're going to throw me under the bus later.
Yeah.
We know that. Okay, number 4. Social media junk.
I think you need to explain that one, Amy.
Yeah, social media junk. So if you party hard, yeah, you need to take your social media down while you're interviewing, because you can say all day long that an employer does not have the right to view my Facebook page, but the truth is they don't have to disclose they're looking at your Facebook page, but they will look at your Facebook page. And if you're on there partying or doing stuff inappropriate or have a lot of bad language, it's not gonna. Put yourself in the position of the boss. If you had somebody who, you know, kind of flies under the radar, and you have someone that has a lot of obscenities or a lot of drinking and all that stuff on there, and you're right, they have no business in your personal life if that's on the weekend. But the truth is, it does convey a certain message if you have a lot of partying or inappropriate things or sexist things. Racist things, anything like that on your you shouldn't have that stuff on your Facebook anyway, but don't have any of that on your social media.
And I'm going to add one more that we tend to forget about these days, particularly on Facebook. Politics, folks. You know, half the country's on one side, half the country's on the other. Do you want to lose an opportunity to really step up in class because you said something that offends the person you'd be working for because the two of you disagree? Once you're on board, the likelihood that you're going to talk politics is next to non-existent. After all, I think you have the sophistication to say, it's probably not a good idea if we talk politics at work. Let's just stick to a professional.
You may even want to suspend your accounts while you're looking for a job. If there's anything questionable on there, you may just want to suspend your account and just not have it available for public view while you're looking.
Yeah, you can make them private and just have it visible to people you're actually connected with.
Right. You may want to do that, and then you can turn off that setting as soon as you're done or whatever. But you may want to do that while you're doing a job search. Okay, so I'm going to do that was number 4. I'm going to do a 3.5 before we do the 3.
Oh,
Jeff, you were okay. So this is 3.5.
3.5.
3.5. Speak to a recruiter on the phone or in person even more respectfully than you would a hiring manager, because we are the hiring manager. We are in between you and hundreds of positions at any given moment. Most staffing services work with hundreds of clients. And so sometimes people come in, they're not dressed appropriately, or they say something inappropriate or too personal or whatever. And they're like, well, I would never say that in a real interview. You are in a real interview with a recruiter, because we are the gateholder between you and the hiring manager. And think of it this way, we're putting our name and reputation on you. And we're not going to do that for just anyone.
And folks, I know this one's a tough one to hear, because everyone hates third-party recruiters. Job hunters hate them. Employers would prefer not to hire using them. It's a necessary evil. Mm-hmm. And let's be smart about it, folks. You may not like them. It's business. It's not personal. Most of the things you hate them for are things that they're telling you because their client has told them to say this.
Right.
They're the messenger for the client. So,
and listen, we make you feel comfortable because we talk to thousands of people. I mean, Jeff and I have spoken to thousands of people, done thousands of interviews, and had, all kinds of clients. And so let me just give you a tip. When someone is putting you at ease, just there's a reason for that. And so the same thing can happen with us, and the same thing could happen with the hiring manager. Do not mistake putting you at ease for, I don't have to be professional, or I can be myself, or I can be loose, or I could say a cuss word, or I could talk about my family. No, know that is a strategy of ours and a strategy of the hiring managers. We want to put you at ease, but you need to maintain a professional demeanor at all times, regardless of what the hiring manager does.
Can I add a 3 1/4?
Yes, 3 1/4.
3 1/4. Every question about compensation that you are asked is part of the negotiation. It doesn't start at the very end when they're ready to make you the offer. It starts when they're asking you, so how much are you earning now? And how much are you looking for? What would you say the rock bottom base salary is, exclusive of bonus, that you'd find acceptable to join our firm? And you don't really know anything about the job, the hiring manager, the people you'd be working with. They're negotiating already. And you're
right,
not.
And don't lie. Like, we will ask you for your W-2. If you say you're making a certain amount of money, we're going to ask you to prove it. And so don't distort and lie and say, oh, well, the bonus didn't hit till the next year. Okay, let me see where it hit. I want to see. Because that's lying. If you are taking a big jump because it's a big jump in responsibility, again, like we talked about early, justify the jump because it is a lot more responsibility. Or maybe you've been at a company for 20 years, and so you haven't gotten the normal raises if you had moved around every 4 or 5 years. And so you're a little bit behind in your salary. That could also cause a big jump. Or like Jeff said earlier, if you're going from Atlanta, the housing market, and the taxes are a lot. We all have free parking, so unless you're downtown. And so, but if you move to Manhattan or LA, you better believe that you're going to need a big jump for the cost of living.
Absolutely.
Okay, sorry, go ahead.
That's number 3.
Not researching the company.
And what sort of research should they do? What form should it take?
I mean, at a minimum, you should be sniffing around on LinkedIn, doing a search, see who works there, what's going on, and going to their website. Have they made any acquisitions lately? What are they known for? Where are their other locations? You should know probably their stock price. I would write that down. You should know some things about the company. And a lot of times they post things like maybe they were awarded something for being a great employer in the city, or maybe not. Maybe there's stuff out that they were dinged for something. And so you are going to be spending a lot of your life at this company. So you want to know, are there a bunch of lawsuits against the company? Obviously, you're probably not going to bring that up in an interview, but you want to be aware. Or are they really well known for treating their employees like gold? So things like that can butter up a hiring manager, that you came in knowledgeable about the company and the growth and all that stuff. So research the company. But don't research it too much. So if you're stalking the guy that you're interviewing with and you know that he has, an ex-wife and 2 kids and they ski in Vermont, that's too much. So you can look that up, but don't talk about that in the interview. Like, yeah, surfing your Facebook page. That's too much, Jeff.
And I'll also say, folks, look at their LinkedIn profile. Get a sense of what their background is, how long they've been at the firm. What brought you here? I see you've been here for about 4.5 years. What keeps you here? What do you enjoy about working for the firm? Those are valid questions that you deduce from looking at their LinkedIn profile. Now, the one place I'm going to disagree with you about, if they mention the skiing in Vermont thing on their Facebook page and you happen to ski,
you could work it in.
You can work that in.
You can work it in. And I agree. Anything that you put on LinkedIn is like a resume, so I feel it's free game. So if you saw on the hiring manager's LinkedIn page that they 10 years ago worked at a company you worked at, I would bring it up like, oh yeah, I looked at your LinkedIn profile and I saw that you used to work for IBM, and out of college, I worked for IBM. That's appropriate because that's almost like a resume versus pulling out something that's on their personal page. But if you do ski, like Jeff said, maybe work it in, but don't mention that you were stalking them on Facebook. That's a little embarrassing.
It's the data, not the place, that it's okay to mention.
Right.
So here we are. We're getting close to the top items. Number 2.
Answering the what is your weakness question with something
I sometimes work
like,
too hard.
I'm a perfectionist. That's what we're thinking, and that's what the hiring manager is thinking too. Do not say that. Take a real weakness. For example, let's say you're a little bit of a procrastinator, and talk about how you have grown in that area. In college, I was a little bit of a procrastinator, and it caught up with me. And so now I really live by a schedule. I put it on my calendar or whatever your weakness is, bring it up. Be honest about it. Or it might be like, my weakness personally is numbers, even though I have to work with numbers a lot because I was a sales manager. I really had to study it, but really 90% of my job has nothing to do with numbers other than negotiating salaries and fees. And so I picked a career, I don't want to be an accountant. So I just kind of avoid my weakness.
Folks, if you take a look on YouTube, you'll see I've got a video that deals with how to answer the weaknesses question. And I think it's just simply titled, and what are your greatest weaknesses? I take a slightly different approach to Amy, but it's geared more toward people who are in professional careers rather than administrative or stuff like that. Amy's answer is spot on for people who are in staff level roles. I've got a different take on it for more senior people. So take a look for that video. But here we are, the number 1.
So obvious, but often not respected. Number 1, arriving late to the interview.
Ooh.
No, never. And you know what's point 5? Arriving too early to the interview, because then you look like a freak. So you can't show up. You need to show up about, when you say 10 to 15 minutes, that's it. That's it, early. And sit down quietly. Don't pester the person that's between you and the hiring manager, whoever that is, his assistant or whatever. Sit and just zip it. And then if you're early, go get a cup of coffee and go around the block and drink it in your car, and do not step into that building until about 15 minutes before you're supposed to be there.
And if by some chance you are late, because sometimes there's traffic, if you're in areas where there are subways, sometimes there are delays, you can't pretend it didn't happen. You have to.
I would call ahead.
Yeah.
I would call ahead. If you have it's like the flat tire rule. If you have a flat tire, or your son or daughter starts projectile vomiting when you start to walk out the door, those are legitimate emergencies. Traffic, not a legitimate emergency unless there's a traffic accident. And then in all 3 of those cases, I would call ahead, and I would just be very honest, say, hi, my interview's at 10. There is a traffic crash on the freeway. I'm going to be late. Would you like me to come in late, or would you like me to reschedule?
Right.
Or I have a flat tire. I can send you a picture of the flat tire. I'm going to be half an hour late. Would you like me to reschedule? And that shows responsibility, because life comes up. But coming in sweating, and oh my gosh, traffic was so bad. It screams that you're not prepared.
Right.
And that's how you're going to be. You're not going to be prepared for the job.
I had a client who for years would tell me about each instance where someone came in and didn't acknowledge the lateness. And he knew that person would never get hired because he'd kill it right then and there. So don't pretend like it hasn't happened. Even if it's 5 minutes, acknowledge it. Apologies, I got here a little bit late. Offer 1 minute of excuse, a few seconds of explanation for it. Let it go because they know.
I have been late to an interview before. I had one blue shoe on, one black shoe on, and I did not realize that until I pulled out of my neighborhood. And so I literally zipped. That's shame on me for not giving myself some margin. I zipped back around and I did tell him that. I was like 2 minutes late, and I said, I want to tell you the reason why I was 2 minutes late because I had one blue shoe on and one black shoe on, and I didn't want to show up for an interview like that, and I'm so sorry. And it really, they made it okay, and I'm never late. But I did, just like you said, I told the truth. I wanted to acknowledge. I realized I was supposed to be here at 8, and it's 8:02, and I should have been here at 7:50.
Yeah, and folks, lying doesn't work. I'm gonna add that big one in there. Lying doesn't work.
Don't lie about anything
because they will.
Except for if you had an affair, or sometimes we used to see on resumes these giant gaps, and somebody was in jail, or somebody was in something serious, like drug rehab, or an ill family member or something like that. You do not have to disclose that. Now, you can't lie about it if it comes up on a criminal background check or they ask you flat out about your criminal record. But drug rehab or something like that, you don't have to disclose. You can say something like, I could afford a sabbatical, and I took a sabbatical. So be careful disclosing everything about yourself. That's not really their business.
Agreed. This has been fun. Number 0.
I hope it helps people, because some people just don't know. And if you don't know, any recruiter that's worth their weight will happily walk you through it. And if a recruiter or hiring manager gives you a tip, do not take it personally. Know that we want you to get a job. We want you to get a job. And we know the client inside and out, and we know what they're looking. Make a suggestion. Look, you should dress a little bit more conservatively. Hey, your hair is all the way down to your bum. You might want to put it in a more professional style when you go, because they're insurance and they're really, really prim and proper. Your resume is on pink paper. They're not going to like that. You need to put it on white paper. This is a wonky font. Whatever we tell you, it's because you have to remember, we're getting paid on commission. We want you to get the job, but we're here to help you be the best you and present, your best shot of what the client is looking for as well.
Perfect. And a great way to end up. Hey, Amy, how can folks reach you if they have any questions, or tell them about the book?
Oh, I love to tell them about the book. The book has a whole chapter of me getting fired, and for all different reasons, and none for integrity issues, but most of them like super funny things, but all kinds of things, being married, being divorced, a lot of falling down. I'm very klutzy. A lot of falling down stories. One time I fell down at work, my whole suit rolled up, the whole upper floor was looking at me. I hurt myself. Very embarrassing. But anyway, the book is on Amazon. It's been a bestseller since it came out, and it's really fun. It's an essay style, and if you go on Amazon, it sits right next to David Sedaris and Tina Fey and Trevor Noah and Amy Poehler and Chelsea Handler, so it's so thrilling to be there. And they can find it on Amazon. They can listen to it on Audibles or an ebook. They can download it, or they can buy a paperback. Oh, and if they want to contact me, if they have any fails, because I'm collecting fails, and I have my new book has a work fail section. So if you're going to interview and bombing, I would love to hear about that. But and they can contact me through www.amylyle.me, and my Twitter is Amy Lyle, and Instagram's author Amy Lyle.
Now, Lyle is spelled in multiple ways. Yours is Lyle. Am I correct?
Lyle. Yeah, and on Amazon they can look. They don't have to remember the whole title. They can just look up the Book of Failures. It should come up, Amy Lyle, the top 1 or 2 books.
Super. And folks, I'll be back soon with more advice to help you find work more quickly. I'm Jeff Altman, the Big Game Hunter. If you're interested in one-on-one coaching with me, connect with me on LinkedIn at linkedin.com/IN/the Big Game Hunter. Mention that you saw the interview. I love knowing that this stuff is helpful to people. And and once we get connected, message me. We'll set up a time to speak. I look forward to being of help to you. Hope you have a great day. Take care.